Hi, good afternoon. My name is Becky Wigington, and I am the Director of College and Career Readiness and Guidance for Midlothian ISD. And I'm joined here with two lovely ladies this afternoon. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I'm Julie Nelson, a special education counselor and a behavior specialist with Midlothian Independent School District.
I'm Shannon Malone. I'm the social emotional support specialist.
So today we are here for this Facebook Live session to offer parents and students, if you're tuning in, maybe some ideas on how to talk to your children during this time. We know that this COVID-19 situation is absolutely out of the norm. There are a lot of uncertain things going on, and so we're here to provide you with some information and resources for you as a family to help navigate through this situation. The first thing I want to talk about is just acknowledging that this is difficult and this is changing. Every day we receive news, and what we thought was going to happen the following day may be different. And so we are all dealing with uncertainty, and with that can raise a lot of anxiety and maybe concerns about how to handle, what to do from day to day. So my first suggestion is we want to talk about making time to talk with your kids. They have a lot of questions. Adults have a lot of questions, but our kids really do. And they're developmental, depending on what their age is. Your 5 or 6 year old may be asking you different questions than your 17-year-old. And so we want you to designate time to talk to your kids. Make sure you are sitting down, allowing them to ask those questions, and for you to have time to give the answers. Just listening sometimes and allowing them the time to talk, that alone is what they need. And making sure you're giving developmentally appropriate information. Sometimes when kids ask questions, we share and give too much information. So developmentally appropriate information is important. And so depending on the age of your child, sometimes you're going to have to filter, maybe what you're saying, but always offer what you know in truth. When we decide to not share information with students, sometimes they'll create their own story, and that often is worse than just telling them what you know. Ms. Nelson?
They'll also share a lot of their emotions with you, so acknowledge their emotions, let them know that there's not a bad emotion, and help them cope and discuss exactly how they're feeling. For younger children, recommend that visuals are very helpful, where they can look at a picture and tell you how they're feeling, maybe with the visual rather than actual words.
Okay. The next thing is getting comfortable with saying, I don't know. We, at my own house, I know I have said that phrase many times. I don't know. I don't have the answers to questions. So when kids are asking and you don't know, it's okay to say I don't know. But always follow up with what you do know. I think reminding kids of the facts and what is being done, and reminding them how our world, the things that our government or our health organization or the doctors, what they're doing to provide us safety and security. So when you have an I don't know, follow it up with what I do know, and that gives them a little bit more sense of calm in a very stressful situation. Good. Okay. Also, we as adults have to deal with our own anxiety. We as adults are dealing with different things as well in our world. Our professional work, maybe financial stress, worries about, supplies, things that you may not have. How are you going to get them? There's a lot of stress that as adults, as a family, you're dealing with, being in the house all day with everyone. Unable to, have a break from each other. There's a lot of things going on that as adults we're dealing with. And so we always like to talk about the analogy of if you're on an airplane, the first thing they tell you to do if you're traveling with children is to put your oxygen mask on first before you help the child. And this is exactly what we want you to do. We want you to take care of yourself first. And so if you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, that's not the time to talk to your kids in that moment. Give yourself some breaks, give yourself some grace, allow yourself a time to regroup and calm down, find a place for you and an outlet to get some stress relief before you engage in talking to your child. That will help when they see that you are stressed and overwhelmed, they feed off of that as well. And I know that's not always possible, to hide. But the best thing to do is take care of yourself as much as you can with connecting with friends, asking questions, having an outlet before you engage with your children. And that'll also help relieve some of their stress and anxiety that they may be feeling.
Your children are going to model the way you deal with stress, so I think it's important that these are activities you can do with your children. You can teach them how to take some deep breaths. That's going to assist you. Maybe do some exercise with your children, and then have that conversation once you've done some self-calming and teaching them self-calming, and that's going to help with a better coping situation all the way around.
Absolutely. The next thing we've talked about, I know if you tuned in with our elementary or secondary Facebook Live last week, and I know that many teachers have already begun to talk about this, is routines. Provide a routine. We all need routine. We all need consistency. It helps us know what to expect. It helps us know, what our day is going to look like. So as we navigate the day, if changes do come along, that we're able to handle that a lot better if we have a routine. So please, if you haven't yet, Ms. Malone is going to talk a little bit about that with some routines. She may go into more depth, but set schedules for your kids. It's okay to, get up, get dressed, go about your day like you normally would. Even though you're not leaving your house, get ready like you are. It helps you feel better. You feel better about yourself. And then you're laying out some consistency and a pattern of the day so you understand what is happening. Our students thrive on a schedule, and they have been taken out of that. We know this is different from a summer break. It's different from a spring break or holiday break because they're doing online learning at home now. And that's even different from homework. And so allowing them to, make a schedule, give them choice, help make it together as a family and say what works for our family. We know that as parents that you may be feeling stressed about completing assignments. Please give yourself grace. This is uncharted for everyone, and our teachers are very flexible. We're trying to really ease into the at-home learning, and so if you worked today and it didn't work, whatever your schedule was, change it for tomorrow. That's okay to say, that didn't really work out for us today. Maybe we need to change when we do math or English, or maybe we need to put in a break where we didn't have a break. Maybe we need to go outside, the sun is shining, let's go out. Maybe we can do our learning outside. Make those changes and give yourself some freedom to do that so that you are also being flexible with that schedule and routine, but knowing that they have that for each day, and that'll help ease the worry for what's going on in our world.
Very good.
Okay. The next thing is limit news exposure. This is one of my very passionate topics because as adults, we are seeking information constantly. And we can get it social media, we can get it on the TV. When we're all at home, it's really easy to have the TV on all day and have it on CNN or Fox News or whatever, to have that rolling. And I can tell you that it's really important to not do that so that we're overexposing. You can overexpose yourself as an adult with too much information, and you can definitely overexpose your children. Even when we think they're not listening, they are. They are more intuitive than sometimes we give credit, and so they are listening, and it's too much information. So if you as adults in your house need sound bites, that's okay, but only do sound bites. Turn it on for a limited amount of time. Seek information in other ways. Your students who have access to social media, talk to them about limiting that for the news part of it, because not everything we hear is accurate. And so then you may be exposed to information that's really not the truth, or maybe it's taken completely out of context. I watched something on the news the other day, and I had just joined, and I was completely taken out of context because I didn't have the first 5 minutes of the news story to understand. And so then I could be carrying misinformation. And so please limit news exposure. We've seen that with other world events, the effects of news, and as things are changing, Not to mention, we don't know when they might break in with a breaking story. And that breaking story may not be appropriate for your children to hear. And so I just feel like that's really important for you as a family to think about what times would be good for us to get the information we need, but not have it on rolling throughout the day.
The other piece to that is if they should come across something on social media or a newscast, take some time to ask the question, what do you think about that? Or should we investigate that more? That's a learning opportunity. It also gives them a little bit of control in their life about what is going on around them and how they feel about it and how are they going to manage that. So have those conversations if they should come across some information that they're concerned about.
Absolutely. And then helping us connect, students connect, that I think is one of our hot topics, is how do we connect when we're in a world of maybe isolation, physical isolation. So we know there's social platforms for that. That may not be okay for every family. If it is, and your kids are allowed to have social media, I encourage you to allow them times to do that. But again, limiting, that information, because they may be getting, exposed to other things that you don't want them to. But allow some connectivity with your children. FaceTime, their phone calls. We forget to make a personal phone call in our day and age because it's just as easy to text. But have your kids pick up the phone and call and make personal phone calls to friends or family. That's a great way for them to talk and to connect with other individuals. Journaling, that's a great way to connect because you're actually doing some internal reflection. There are some topics out there that you can have your students just keep a daily journal of, how did you feel about today? What were your wins today? What did you feel like went really well? And what do you feel like you need to work on for the next day that was an obstacle? And then if willing, share those journal topics with each other and talk about, what do we need to do differently tomorrow? Our teachers are connecting. I know on Google Hangouts, they have select times for office hours. And I know there's a lot of joy on both ends. Teachers are so excited to see their students' faces and to wave, and then the same with the students back. They get to see each other and with their teachers, and we really encourage you to connect with the teachers and have your students do that. It's really important for them to know that their school, even though school looks different, they're still here. Your teachers still love and care for you and are excited to see you.
That helps to cultivate compassion when we do reach out to those that we haven't seen in a long time or we're worried about. So that will help them to kind of have some of those answers to unknowns for them. I know I reach out to my mother daily, and so I think that helps to ease some stress on my level. So I think it would help your kids also.
We also have to build in healthy outlets. So take breaks, and you may find yourself taking more breaks than you ever have. We're being forced into downtime. We don't have outside activities, but it doesn't feel like downtime when you're having to work and you're doing school work and you're in your house. So you have to schedule breaks for yourself. It's self-care. It's self-care for your kids. So think about, what do we love? What is your passion? Maybe it's listening to music. Maybe it's exercising. Maybe it's something that you've never done as a family because you haven't had the time that you can now do, taking a bike ride, going on a walk. If you have an area by your house that you can escape to, that's a little park area, something that's within that was okay to be outside that you could do outside of your house. Then make sure you're building time to do those things. Create something. I have seen many students who have the gift of creation, whether that's art, with painting, drawing, whether it's building something, Legos, different modes of creating something new. This is a great time to allow your kids to just create, craft, problem solve, give them something where they have some hands-on. That's a great break throughout the day. And then playing games, get out the family games, Monopoly, Uno, different things that, have going on. I know, our family, we're ping pong, that's a great thing for us to do together. So think about things what can we do together and separately to give ourselves some breaks.
I think also that, a lot of times you can connect with friends. Our kids are going to feel lonely. You can connect with friends through Skype, FaceTime, and you can also play games that way. And also don't be afraid to go old school and have circle at home or read a story as a group, have a book club, those kinds of things. Don't be afraid to do that. Kids will thrive on that. Also, one activity you might consider doing is making dinner together. Plan the menu. Everyone gets to add a piece to the menu that they like. Why do they like it? Makes the activity fun. And then, have some good, relaxing conversation at the dinner table.
And then we know that there are disappointments that are coming along with this situation. Many things are either postponed or canceled or simply unknown of whether we're going to be able to resume some activities, sports, tryouts. Our seniors particularly, I know there's a lot of stress about what's going to happen with the activities that are planned and were coming up. And there's a sense of loss there of not knowing if we don't go back, or if we do, what's it going to look like? Will it still be the same? Will it be rescheduled? How are we going to navigate that? And so I think at some level we're all handling disappointment, but our children especially are handling disappointments of not being able to do the things that maybe they were looking forward to doing. Especially if that was their outlet, whether it's, an instrument or competition or a sport or whatever it may be, there's disappointment there. And so I would offer to remind your children that, you're not alone. Sometimes when we know we're not alone and we're all kind of in this together, that gives you a sense of, a little more understanding of it's not just me. Our nation is dealing with disappointments. Also perspective. This is something that, takes some work, but I think a conversation with your child of thinking about how, even though this was unexpected, how can we take this time? It's unique and it's different, but what benefit could come from it? What perspective could we have differently, even though we're in a situation that is out of our control? And sometimes just understand that maybe it's not bad, it's different, and how can we change our mindset of what could we do with this time, even though we're not being able to do something that we thought we could. Being generous to others, that helps your own well-being when you give to others. And I know it's a little hard to give when you can't leave your house, but you can give in other ways that we kind of talked about with connection. But give, think about, maybe that's a great brainstorm with your family. What can we do for someone else that helps your well-being? And even though this period is unusual and fluid, find a group that you can talk to, that maybe it's a shared experience. So if you're a senior, share your concerns and thoughts with your other peers and your classmates. Share with your group, find a core group that you can talk to, and then encourage each other. So instead of, the woe is me, oh my goodness, this is happening, be the cheerleader in that group and say, you know what, this is happening, but let's think about this, or what benefit could come out of it, or when we do get back to a schedule and we can go back to school, we can resume, what can we do differently? So flipping it to not talk about the negative, but actually thinking about positive and actionable items that you can do from it, and that gives a sense of control as well. Is that it? Okay. So right now, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Malone. She's going to give some strategies. So we understand, parents, that you have switched from maybe facilitating homework only and parenting to now facilitating at-home learning. Your teachers are teaching, but you're facilitating maybe the schedule or the routine, and you may come across some challenges with that of what to do. So I'm going to let Ms. Malone talk about some things you can do in your home with your students as you're navigating this new situation.
Tip number 1 is to continue to connect as a family, and I know that they already spoke about this, but play lots of games together, have dinner together, go for bike rides, walks, playing outside. The relationships within your home right now are going to be extremely important for your children. Some reflection questions for the dinner table are, how did today go? What went really well? What could go a little better tomorrow? And then make a plan each night for how tomorrow is going to go better. And that leads me back to these schedules and routines. Having a routine in your home is going to provide that daily pattern that our brains seek. It'll help your home feel more calm and run more efficiently. I know that my 13-year-old thinks that he gets to spend 8 hours a day on his Xbox, and so when I say it's time to get his assignments done or his chores done, he might come at me with a little pushback. And so having that schedule and routine, and he already knows that at 4 o'clock we have chore time. He knows that it's coming. He knows to expect it. And so I get a much more willingness and cooperation from my children at home. Adjust these schedules and routines based on the needs of your family. We keep wake up times and bedtimes consistent. That has been very important. We keep meal times consistent. We build in time for going outside, for exercising, for creative time. They know what to expect from each part of their day. And this is really important to keep them operating at the highest centers of their brain. The next tip I have is have a calming space in their room or in their home. This works best for elementary age students, but it really is helpful for all ages, including adults, to have a space to go when we notice that we have a big emotion that we need to handle. You can make a plan for this with your children and let them decide where that wants to be, and then help them notice the physical responses that are happening in their body when they start to experience an emotion. An example of that is my heart will race and my stomach will hurt. That's anxiousness. And so my plan was to go for a run. It turns out I hate running, so I changed that to go for a walk instead. But then I'm modeling that for my children. So then frustration is a big emotion that my daughter has experienced with this at-home learning environment. Her iPad wasn't working, and so we had to take a break. And so I helped her notice what frustration felt like for her. She gets really angry, her body gets really tight, and so I helped her notice that's frustration. And frustration is telling you to take a break and come back to this when we can problem solve a little better. And so her plan is to take a walk with me. We're going to be taking lots of walks. The next strategy I have for parents, this is my favorite. It's providing some choice for your children. Within that schedule, within your routine, there is tons and tons of choices. Your job is to think about the goal for your child and then think of 2 ways that they can accomplish that goal. So an example is, it's 8 o'clock, it's time to get out of bed. Would you like to get dressed first, or would you like to eat breakfast first? It's simple. The goal is we're still getting out of bed, but my daughter gets a little choice in what that looks like for her, and that gives her a lot of power in her day. I can ask my 13-year-old when it's time for chores, would you like to start with the dishes, or would you like to start with the trash? Which one works best for you? And that's a wonderful, wonderful strategy. The next one that follows up choices is encouragement. Verbally notice when your child is following through with a helpful choice. The more you notice the positive behaviors happening in your home, the more you're going to get of those positive behaviors, because they know that you see them doing these things. An example is you cleaned your dish and you placed it in the dishwasher. That helps keep the kitchen clean. And I promise you, the more I've said that, the more my kitchen has ended up being clean at the end of the day. So another tip is watch for changes in behavior of your children. I know that my children are experiencing some different eating habits, like 23 snacks a day. And they're also experiencing some sleep changes. They're not able to go to sleep as early, and they're not able to get up as early. So we're watching that and watch that and reach out for help if you need. If you're having trouble with the at-home learning assignments, make sure you reach out to your teachers. The counselors are available too, so reach out to your student's school counselor. And then families, the last thing is to be kind to yourself and adjust based on the needs of your family. Emotions for everyone are going to be a little tricky right now, so just make some time to make a plan for them when they pop up.
Okay, awesome. So I hope that today you have heard some tips and some opportunities for resources and strategies maybe in your home. It's not going to be perfect. No one expects perfection with the at-home learning. Your teachers are an absolute resource. Please reach out to them if you're struggling. I just reiterate that they're there, they're ready to help you. And so we want to take that pressure off of you if your student is struggling there. We did have one question about that was previously sent, so I want to make sure I address that. Explaining the need for quarantine for your own child when maybe another family or friend isn't doing the same thing. Maybe they're allowing a little more leeway with being around other people, other friends. And so I know that that's hard. Anytime you have your child's not allowed to do something that another family allows, that could be with, social media. Maybe you don't allow social media, but another family does, or you don't allow them to go to a certain place, but another family does. And so I think that putting it into context is, developmentally appropriate conversation with your child about, how can you connect in a different way. So maybe we can't see this friend face to face, but how can we see them? What's a different way that we can see them? So Skype, Google Hangouts, phone calling, things like that. And then also just explaining that your reason, go back to the facts. Here's why. This is why. The why is this is keeping us safe. The why is this is the recommendation, and so forth. And I think sometimes as parents we feel like, well, I've already said those things and they're still asking. Expect to repeat yourself. I have repeated myself at my house so many times, and that's okay. And it gets frustrating, but I said, I don't know. And I've also said, I know. Like when one of my kids says something and it's just an expression of this worry or this frustration or whatever, I just say, I know. And just listen. I know you're feeling it. And just acknowledging that alone can just helps, even if you feel like you're having to repeat yourself. So if you have any specific questions, there is a place you can comment and also send in. We will be glad to talk more and answer specific questions, especially if your child is experiencing something very unique or different, or you need some more in-depth strategies with creating a schedule, visuals. Ms. Nelson talked about visuals. Those are very helpful for younger children. If you need help with anything, our emails will be available. You can contact us or your child's school counselor. They're also a wonderful resource. I want to remind you that as we look at this situation, we want to pay attention to our mental health. And if you feel like behavior changes in your child or someone in your family or just someone remember there are hotline numbers that are posted on our district website, the Suicide Prevention Line, National Association of School Psychologists, we have that resource there, NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Health. We also have a crisis link that we've always had as our district, but if you feel like you need to report something that and you need assistance right away, when you submit to that crisis link, it goes to many individuals within our district right away. And so we can attend to that right away if you need some help. So just want to be sure that you have those resources and you're continuing to reach out. So even though we're not face-to-face, you absolutely have a connectivity with our district. Thank you for joining us today. Again, if you have more questions, please let us know and let us know how we can help your families.